Thomas Weaver had lived in Willow Ridge for exactly 3 weeks when he realized something was off. It wasn't the neighbors, most of them were polite, if not overly friendly. It wasn't the location nestled on the edge of a quiet forest preserve. The subdivision offered the peace he craved after a decade working IT in downtown Chicago. No. The problem: wore oversized sunglasses, drove a silver Lexus, and had a name badge that read Karen Delaney, HOA president. It started small. The day after he moved in, Thomas received a typed envelope taped to his door. Lawn exceeds HOA standard height. Please cut to 1.75 inches. He didn't even own a lawnmower yet. A week later, another note arrived. Trash can visible from sidewalk. Please remove immediately. Then came the violation for non-regulation mailbox color. It was black, just black. Thomas shrugged it off at first. He figured maybe the neighborhood ran tight. Maybe Karen had a clipboard quota, but everything changed the moment she sent the pool notice. One hot Thursday afternoon, Thomas walked past the community pool, a beautiful, newly renovated space with chaise lounges and a shaded picnic area. A laminated sign was zip-tied to the fence. Notice: pool closed until further notice. Scheduled maintenance in progress. Access restricted. HOA management. But there were no contractors, no workers, not even a wet footprint. Thomas raised an eyebrow and continued walking. That evening, while scrolling through the neighborhood's private Facebook group, mostly lawn photos, bake sale flyers, and someone constantly asking if the suspicious cat had an owner, paused, a video auto played. It was grainy. Taken at night from someone's upstairs window, but clear enough. The pool was very much open. A dozen people, most of them in their 40s and 50s, danced around in swimsuits. Loud music played from a speaker system. There were inflatable flamingos, beach balls, and a whole champagne tower on a folding table, and right in the middle of the pool, in a wide-brimmed sun hat, was Karen Delaney herself, laughing, splashing, pouring a drink. So that's why the pool was closed. The comments section exploded. Wait, was this a private event? This doesn't seem legal. Did she seriously ban us all so she could party? Thomas rubbed his temples. He wasn't the neighborhood cop, but this crossed a line. That pool was funded by the HOA dues that every homeowner paid. If Karen wanted her own private spa day, she could book a hotel like everyone else. The next morning, Thomas walked to his mailbox, still in violation, apparently, and found another envelope, another violation notice. Unauthorized surveillance of HOA property. Cease and desist. He blinked. She was accusing him of flying drones over the pool. He didn't even own a drone. Someone else had posted the video, but that didn't matter. Karen had already decided he was a problem. Thomas stared at the notice for a long time, then slowly crumpled it in his fist. This wasn't about pool rules. It wasn't about lawn heights or mailboxes. This was about power. And Karen, she was drunk on it, drunk on chlorine and HOA policy manuals. That night, Thomas sat on his porch with a cup of coffee and a notepad. If Karen wanted to treat the HOA like her personal kingdom, fine. But kings and queens had rules. And when they broke those rules, history had a name for what came next. The next chapter of Willow Ridge was about to get messy, and Thomas Weaver, he was just getting started. What would you do if your neighbor banned everyone from a public pool just to throw a party? Comment below. Hit like if you've ever dealt with an HOA tyrant. And don't miss part 2, it's going to make a splash. Bye. Saturday morning. Willow Ridge was buzzing. Thomas didn't have to say a word. Karen's midnight pool party had become the HOA's worst-kept secret. The Facebook post had already been viewed over 1,300 times and shared into every subgroup from Willow Ridge Moms to Grill Dads Anonymous. Residents who'd never interacted before were suddenly bonding over disbelief, anger, and the hilarious detail that Karen had apparently belly-flopped in a sequined swimsuit. But while the neighborhood laughed, Karen doubled down. She posted an official HOA update the next morning that read, "Due to continued equipment issues, the community pool remains closed. No exceptions. Violation of this rule will result in an immediate fine. HOA President." Karen Delaney. Thomas nearly spit out his cereal. No apology. No explanation, just more threats. It got worse when someone anonymously sent out screenshots of Venmo transactions. Karen had allegedly charged her friends $25 apiece to attend the private pool mixer. It wasn't just a party. It was a side hustle. That afternoon, Thomas walked past the pool gates again, casually glancing in. There were new padlocks on the entry doors, brand new nitrogen monoxide trespassing signs, zip tied to the fencing, and in the corner visible behind a bush was a freshly mounted, motion sensor camera. Thomas just stood there, hands on hips, eyebrows raised like a cartoon character catching someone red-handed. "She's losing it," came a voice behind him. Thomas turned to see a neighbor he recognized but hadn't spoken to yet. Guy in cargo shorts, clutching a gardening spade and a Starbucks cup. He nodded toward the pool. "Karen's completely gone off the rails. You saw the video?" Thomas asked. "Everyone did. My wife's been watching it on loop. She keeps yelling, 'Rewind the part where the wig comes off.'" They both laughed just for a second until the mood shifted. "But seriously," the neighbor said, "what are we going to do about it? She's shutting people down left and right. She'll fine the Smiths $100 because their teen daughter had a friend over after quiet hours." "Like what is that?" Thomas's mind was already moving. "What if we documented it? Everything, the party, the fake closure, the camera, the threats. Get a few folks together, bring it to the next HOA board meeting." The neighbor raised an eyebrow. "You think she's gonna let that happen? The last meeting she canceled 2 minutes before start time, and said there was a plumbing emergency. Nobody's seen the vice president in weeks." "I'll find him," Thomas said, smirking. "I used to work cybersecurity. You'd be surprised what people leave public." Later that night, Thomas sat in his garage with an old corkboard, a fresh pot of coffee, and several clips from the Facebook group printed out and pinned with thumbtacks. He connected dots with red string not because he needed to, but because it made him feel like he was in one of those crime documentaries. Plus, it helped him think by midnight. He had a list of HOA violations Karen had committed just in the last 6 months. And then, a knock. Thomas peeked through the side window. It was Marcus's college roommate from Arizona, now living across town. A chemical engineer, goofball, and someone who absolutely loved drama. "You said this was about an HOA?" Marcus asked, holding up a 6-pack of root beer. Thomas grinned. "You're gonna love this." They talked for over an hour. Marcus listened, wide-eyed, as Thomas laid out everything. The drone accusations, the fines, the private party, the false pool closure. Finally, Thomas leaned back in his chair and asked, "You still have access to that weird polymer compound you were testing last year?" Marcus blinked. Then he broke into a slow, mischievous smile. "You mean the one designed to bond to skin? For riot control and anti-theft dye packs. That's the one." Marcus laughed. "You want to fill the pool with slime?" "Not slime," Thomas corrected. "Justice. Cold, green, gooey justice. Would you team up to slime the neighborhood?" Tyrant. Comment YES if you're on Team Thomas. And stick around for part 3. Things are about to get real slippery. The next 48 hours were a blur of whispered planning, late-night scheming, and enough scientific jargon to make a Bond villain sweat. Marcus had brought over a few canisters of his experimental polymer compound, technically untested on large-scale surfaces, but designed to cling to skin and fabric like a second layer of paint. It was originally meant for riot defense and high-theft areas. A slick yet harmless formula that couldn't be removed with water for at least 72 hours. The nickname at his lab: Stick Forever Slime. Perfect. Thomas and Marcus dubbed the plan Operation Sticky Justice. Their mission: replace the pool water with a precise ratio of this gooey, colorless formula designed to look like slightly off-colored chlorinated water. If someone jumped in, it would take about 5 seconds for the slime to activate. Once it's set, even showers wouldn't save them. But before any slime splashing, they had to get past the surveillance. Karen had installed 3 new cameras around the pool. All were wired into a central router inside the pool office which, thanks to some outdated locks and Marcus's thin toolkit, was bypassed in 20 minutes flat. Karen's security code was 1234, Marcus said flatly. Thomas shook his head. The ego, the laziness, it's all one package. They redirected the camera feed to a looped recording of an empty pool, effectively freezing the video surveillance for a full 6-hour window. That would be more than enough time to get in, drain the water to just below the tile line, pump in the slime, and refill it with enough top-off water to make it look completely normal. "Won't it smell weird?" Thomas asked as they unspooled hoses and attached a modified pool pump. "Only if someone sniffs the water," Marcus replied. "And if they're nose-deep by then, it's too late anyway." At 2:10 a.m., the plan was in full swing. The pump drained steadily. Marcus poured concentrated slime into a second feed that ran under the deck's pump system. ensuring full integration. By 4:30 a.m., the pool glistened like it always had, just with a slight, almost imperceptible glimmer, like it had been waxed, and just in time. Because Karen had scheduled another private HOA water testing demonstration for Friday night. Thomas didn't even need to guess, he knew it was code for another party. The neighborhood buzzed with confusion when the maintenance delay mysteriously ended the next morning. And Karen herself sent out a smug email saying the chlorine levels had stabilized. She even signed off the message with a winking emoji. Thomas forwarded the email to Marcus. Subject line: she's setting herself up for disaster. Message: get popcorn. Sure enough, at 8:07 p.m. on Friday, Karen rolled up to the pool in a flowing cover-up, flanked by two friends who looked like they'd stepped out of a country club catalog. A Bluetooth speaker blared early 2000s pop. Ice buckets clinked with cheap champagne. A few lawn chairs were dragged into position by 8:14. Drinks were flowing. Laughs echoed. At 8:19, Karen kicked off her sandals and swan-dived into the pool with a dramatic splash, and by 8:20, the screaming began. It started as confused splashing, then turned into panicked shrieks as the slime began clinging to everyone's skin. One woman's pool float deflated, leaving her trapped in a sticky puddle. Karen stood, waist-deep, arms outstretched, coated in a shiny, gelatinous film that clung to her arms, neck and most, tragically her freshly bleached bob. "Oh my God, it's in my hair." She howled, she flailed, slipping backward. Her sunglasses flew. A man tried to climb out, but the slime clung to his swim trunks like glue, pulling them halfway down. Another guest had made it to the edge, only to realize her flip-flops were stuck to the deck. Thomas watched it all from his second-story window across the street, sipping iced tea. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Tell me someone's recording this." Thomas replied with a single emoji. "Would you have stopped here, or kept going?" Drop a comment if you've ever dreamed of slimy revenge, and don't miss part 4. It's going to be a slippery downfall the next morning. Willow Ridge woke up to something far more entertaining than their usual HOA emails. Footage of Karen's sticky pool disaster had already made it onto the neighborhood Facebook group twice. Once from a teenager hiding behind a bush with a zoom lens, and again from someone across the street who narrated the entire event like a nature documentary. And here we see the HOA queen attempting to swim. Oh no, she's stuck. She's flailing. Yes, folks, her wig is officially detached. It's floating. It's floating. By sunrise, the video had 742 likes, 97 laughing reactions, and 34 comments just asking, "What is that stuff?" Karen, meanwhile, was nowhere to be seen, which made sense. The slime was specially designed to bond to hair, swimsuits, and skin oils, completely harmless, but nearly impossible to remove for 72 hours. Her vanity wouldn't allow a public appearance until she scrubbed herself raw or burned every item of clothing she owned. But even in hiding, she struck back. At 9:17 a.m. An email hit every resident's inbox. Subject: community incident under criminal investigation. Last night's act of sabotage at our community pool has resulted in property damage and public safety violations. This is being treated as a criminal matter. Anyone with information is required to report it to HOA leadership immediately. Sincerely, HOA President. Karen Delaney. Attached was a still image from the pool's security camera, grainy look, and time-stamped 3 hours after Thomas and Marcus had already looped the feed. In other words, she had no clue who was responsible. Thomas leaned back in his chair, watching the drama unfold from behind his laptop with quiet satisfaction. And then came the cherry on top. A neighbor named Monica, who'd always been neutral, posted a picture of her toddler's hands the morning after the party. They were slightly tinted green, with little specks of dried slime stuck between the fingers. "My son was playing near the pool fence this morning, and now he looks like the Hulk. What the heck is in that water?" That's when things really turned. More residents began commenting, "Wait, weren't we told the pool was under maintenance?" This all started because she closed it to throw a party for her friends, right? Has anyone ever seen an actual vote from the board? Or are we all just living in Karen's kingdom? The cracks were showing by noon. A dozen households had signed a digital petition demanding Karen step down from the HOA board pending investigation. People who had never spoken before were sharing screenshots, photos, even old emails with suspicious maintenance fees that no one could trace. Thomas tried not to gloat, but Marcus had no such restraint. He texted a meme of a pool float, with the caption, "Slime and punishment." Thomas chuckled. Too much. Marcus responded with a second meme, Karen's floating wig, photoshopped with a crown, and the words, "Long live the slime queen." That evening, the HOA held a rushed emergency virtual meeting. Karen popped onto the Zoom screen wearing a hat, giant sunglasses, and what appeared to be a turtleneck, clearly still battling remnants of the slime. She cleared her throat and launched into a long-winded speech about acts of domestic sabotage and legal consequences. But residents were done listening. "I'd like to motion for a leadership vote," Monica said sharply. "You can't," Karen snapped. "It's not on the agenda." "You're not following any agenda," another resident, Barry, added. "You shut down the pool for personal use, lied about repairs, and now you're threatening us because your party backfired." Karen's camera glitched for a moment. When she returned, her screen was frozen on a mid-blink scowl. Thomas watched, silent, arms crossed. This wasn't just a prank anymore. This was the beginning of a reckoning. The HOA board scheduled a real vote for next weekend this time. Residents would come ready. Do you think Karen will survive the vote? Or is her slimy empire finally crumbling? Comment down with the crown if you're on Team Neighborhood, and don't miss part 5 where the fight for power hits full throttle. The days leading up to the emergency HOA vote felt like something out of a political thriller. Whispers floated from backyard BBQs to dog park meets. Everyone had an opinion. Some were Team Karen, afraid of change, but most were done with the reign of the HOA queen. Karen, however, wasn't going down quietly. 2 days before the vote, residents began receiving hand-delivered letters, folded, unsealed, and suspiciously wet from the rain. Inside, violation notices. Trash bins left, out too long, $50 fine. Garage door improperly painted, $75 fine. Unregistered pet on premises, $100 fine. Thomas got 3 in one day, all dated retroactively from before he moved in. "She's throwing tickets like a mall cop on espresso," Marcus muttered as he flipped through the stack. "She's scared," Thomas replied. "This isn't about violations, it's about control." Then came the biggest twist yet. The night before the vote, Karen sent out a community-wide announcement. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, tomorrow's vote is hereby canceled. We will reschedule when HOA leadership deems it appropriate. All proxies submitted before May 1st will remain valid. Thank you for your understanding." HOA President, Karen Delaney Thomas read it twice, then a third time. Wait, did she just cancel democracy? Turns out, she did more than that. Karen had uncovered a forgotten clause buried in the HOA bylaws from 2009, outdated proxy voting policy that allowed residents to submit votes in advance. She then produced a stack of dozens of proxy forms from people who had moved, passed away, or hadn't voted in years. Majority support, she claimed, reinstated unanimously. The audacity was Olympic-level. Monica, Barry, and a few other residents tried to challenge her legally. But the HOA lawyer, also hired by Karen, claimed the bylaws gave her discretion. Thomas paced his living room, fists clenched. She rigged it. She rigged the whole thing. She didn't win, Marcus said, looking up from his laptop. She cheated. That's different. Oh, and it gets worse, Thomas said, holding up his phone. Karen had issued fines totaling over $8,300 to various neighbors within 48 hours. And in the HOA bylaws, any homeowner with more than $250 in unpaid dues or violations loses their right to vote on board matters. That's when it clicked. She's not just rigging the vote, Thomas whispered. She's erasing voters. And yet, Karen still strutted around the neighborhood like a monarch, slime or no slime. Her pool party may have backfired, but her grip was tightening. Until the county got involved. Late Thursday night, a white sedan rolled into Willow Ridge. 2 inspectors from the county Environmental Safety Department stepped out and began taping off the pool entrance. Thomas leaned against his porch railing, watching them. "Guess someone filed a formal complaint," he said with a smirk. Marcus, beside him, nodded. "Wasn't me," he said innocently. "Just someone with an anonymous email and a deep knowledge of chemical code violations." Turns out, the pool slime incident triggered an automatic inspection once public complaints reached a certain threshold. And since Karen had listed herself as the one overseeing pool maintenance, she was now officially under investigation. Within hours, word spread like wildfire. And Karen, she was nowhere to be found. Her Lexus was missing. Her porch light off. Her camera feeds mysteriously cut. Monica posted a message in the group chat. We may not have gotten the vote, but this is the beginning of the end. Do you think Karen's finally getting what she deserves? Or does she still have tricks left up her sleeve? Comment by Karen if you're ready for her downfall. And get ready for part 6 where the law gets involved. And secrets unravel fast. By sunrise, the once feared Karen Delaney had become a ghost. Her Lexus hadn't returned. Her cameras were unplugged. And her house sat quiet, blinds drawn like a fortress. Some said she'd left town. Others swore she was just inside, pacing in a robe with slime still clinging to her elbows. But across the neighborhood, the battle she started was far from over. The county inspectors didn't just tape off the pool, they launched a full audit into Willow Ridge's HOA. Not just the water contamination, but everything. Budgets, maintenance, claims, even board meeting records. And within 72 hours, the truth came flooding in like a busted sprinkler line. Thomas sat at his kitchen table, with a thick printout of the preliminary report, pages of misfiled expenses, missing receipts, and contractor payments that led nowhere. Dozens of checks had been made out to a company called KL Services, but when residents looked it up, it didn't exist. Karen had been billing the HOA for phantom services for nearly 2 years. Pool cleanings, landscaping repairs, even the new security cameras, none of it was traceable. Most of the money had been funneled through a prepaid corporate account linked to her name. She's been embezzling, Marcus said, stunned, and hiding it behind petty violations and fake votes. Thomas added, she kept people too distracted to notice. That afternoon, the HOA's remaining board members, Monica Berry, and a third resident named Angela held an emergency in-person meeting under a pop-up tent in the community park. This time, the turnout was massive. Lawn chairs lined the grass. Neighbors brought snacks, water bottles, even clipboards, and at the center of it all stood Thomas, reading directly from the audit report. Karen billed the HOA for over $43,000 in unverified services, he said, holding up the highlighted section. That's money we all paid, and it went straight into a ghost company that doesn't exist. Murmurs of shock and anger rippled through the crowd. But Monica raised her hand and called for calm. We've filed an official report with the county prosecutor's office, she announced. Karen Delaney is being investigated for financial fraud, misuse of funds, and willful misrepresentation of authority. Angela stepped forward with a clipboard, and we have enough verified signatures to call for a legal removal of her from the HOA board, effective immediately. Cheers broke out. Thomas stood quietly in the back, arms crossed, feeling a mix of satisfaction and disbelief. The plan had started as a joke, slime in the pool, a harmless prank, but now, Karen's entire empire was crumbling. That night, Thomas took his dog for a walk past her house. Still dark, still quiet, until he saw something new. A for sale sign, planted crookedly in the grass. No agent name. No phone number. Just the kind you buy at Home Depot when you're in a rush. By morning, the rumors were confirmed. Karen had left no goodbye, no final word. Just gone. But her legacy lived on in the form of unpaid fines, budget holes, and neighbors still untangling years of her bogus paperwork. The next HOA meeting, now led by Monica, officially reversed every violation Karen had issued in the last 6 months. Refund checks were approved. Proxy voting was suspended pending a rewrite of the bylaws, and the community pool still closed, not because of slime this time, but because the county needed to completely drain, sanitize, and recertify it. Apparently, the maintenance Karen bragged about 4 years had never actually happened. Honestly, Marcus said, sipping lemonade poolside, you probably did that place a favor. Thomas smirked. I just wanted her to stop throwing parties on our dime. You broke a system, or at least made it stickier. Think justice has been served. Or should Karen face even more? Drop a good riddance if you're glad she's gone, and get ready for part 7 where hidden secrets surface. And Karen's past may not be as buried as she thought. A week had passed since Karen disappeared, but the wreckage she left behind was still being sorted through like a tornado made of receipts and rage. The pool was bone dry, now cordoned off with hazard tape and orange cones. Workers in hazmat suits had been called in to deslime the pipes, scrape the polymer off the filter system, and verify chemical compliance. Meanwhile, HOA Vice President Monica and her new interim board worked day and night to clean up Karen's financial disaster, but nothing compared to what Thomas found buried deep in the HOA's public record archive. while scrolling through a decade's worth of HOA board minutes. Thomas noticed a consistent pattern. Karen had joined the board 8 years earlier as secretary, then treasurer, then suddenly became president after a board reshuffling that had zero documentation, no vote logs, no emails, no public notices. Curious, he dug deeper. What he uncovered made his jaw clench. In 2017, Karen had quietly purchased 2 adjacent lots in Willow Ridge, both using a shell company called KL Management Solutions. Then, a year later, she proposed a lot consolidation variance under that same company. No one objected, probably because she buried it in a 40-page PDF. Sent out at 2 a.m., but it didn't stop there. Thomas cross-referenced the HOA's capital improvement budget from the same year and found something disturbing: $18,000 earmarked for landscaping upgrades. Yet, no one remembered any landscaping being done, except for the border fencing that now conveniently shielded Karen's backyard from view. She literally used HOA money to build herself a private wall, he said aloud, pacing across his living room. And no one caught it. He immediately called Monica, who confirmed the county had opened a second investigation, this one focused on misuse of zoning variances and fraudulent real estate filings. Just when the neighborhood thought they were free of Karen, her paper trail pulled her right back into the spotlight. That night, a post appeared in the Willow Ridge Facebook group. FYI, someone just saw Karen's Lexus parked behind a rental property off Pinehurst Road, not confirmed, but she might not be gone. The post got 78 likes, 34 shocked emojis, and 12 people commenting, "Lock your mailboxes." Thomas wasn't surprised. He'd never bought into the idea that Karen had vanished for good. People like her didn't fade, regrouped. But what none of them expected was what came next. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived in Monica's mailbox. To the current board of Willow Ridge HOA. I have retained legal representation regarding unlawful defamation, sabotage, and wrongful removal from my elected position. Your actions have caused irreparable harm to my reputation, property value, and personal safety. I am demanding reinstatement, or I will pursue damages. Karen Delaney, represented by Norton and Lewis Property Law Group. Oh, she's actually suing us, Monica muttered, dropping the letter on Thomas's kitchen counter. Marcus read it upside down. This woman got slimed in public, exposed for fraud, and still thinks she's the victim. She's trying to scare us, Thomas said. She knows she's cornered. This is her Hail Mary. But Monica wasn't shaken. She'd already retained her own lawyer and the county prosecutor had confirmed charges were being considered. Embezzlement, falsifying documents, property misuse. The list was long. Still, Karen's threat wasn't just legal, it was psychological. That next day, Monica's garage keypad stopped working. Barry got a suspicious code enforcement visited anonymously requested, and Thomas, he came home to find his mailbox open. With a single item inside, a wig, bright blonde, covered in specks of dried green slime. No note. Just the message: is Karen trying to claw her way back, whore? Is this her final meltdown? Comment: slime never dies if you think the war isn't over. And brace yourself for part 8. The explosive finale where everything comes crashing down. The wig in Thomas's mailbox was no accident. It was a message. Loud and clear. Karen Delaney wasn't done. The pool slime might have stuck to her body, but spite had seeped into her soul, and now, her final game wasn't about reclaiming her HOA crown, it was about vengeance. Within a week of her threat letter, strange things began happening across Willow Ridge. A burst pipe flooded Monica's flower beds. Barry's car was towed for abandoned vehicle violation. Despite being parked legally in his own driveway, Angela's patio furniture disappeared. Days later, it reappeared bolted to her neighbor's porch. But what Karen didn't know was that while she was busy playing saboteur, the county prosecutor had completed their audit, and they had everything. Fake vendor accounts, forged receipts, the KL management shell, even an email where Karen had accidentally CC'd herself while discussing how to bury costs into the 2021 line items. On a bright Tuesday morning, just as she pulled into her hidden rental property on Pinehurst Road, still wearing sunglasses the size of satellites, 2 unmarked government vehicles pulled in behind her. She barely got out of the car before the words rang out. Karen Delaney, you're under arrest for multiple counts of fraud, theft by deception, and falsifying HOA documentation. It was over. But for the neighborhood of Willow Ridge, it was just the beginning of cleanup. Back at the community park, Monica called a full HOA assembly. Everyone showed up. Thomas stood to speak, holding up a binder titled The Karen Files. "We let one person build an empire of control," he said. "We let one person bully us with fine print and fake rules, but today, we're going to build something better. Transparent. Fair. No hidden votes. No surprise wigs." Laughter echoed. "I propose a full rewrite of the HOA charter, with votes that matter. Spending tracked, and leadership rotated every 2 years." The motion passed unanimously. Later that week, with the county's blessing and a local contractor's help, the community pool was officially reopened. No slime, no fences, just sunlight, water, and a brand new sign. Pool rule, #1. No dictators, no drama, no careening. Thomas smiled as he dipped his foot into the freshly cleaned water. Marcus lounged nearby in a ridiculous inflatable chair shaped like a pickle. "You ever think this all started because of a pool party?" Marcus asked. "Nah," Thomas said, grinning. "It started the day someone thought she could mess with everyone and get away with it." As kids splashed in the background and neighbors grilled burgers, a new sense of community took root in Willow Ridge. Karen had left her mark literally. In some places, green slime still clung to obscure crevices, but her era was over. And yet, one last twist remained. Weeks later, Monica received an anonymous package at her doorstep. Inside was a flash drive. No note, no sender. Curious, she popped it into her laptop. The screen lit up with a single file: insurance claim footage, pool, party 2020. She clicked. Up popped, security cam video, grainy, but clear. Karen, a year prior, dressed in all white, pouring a bottle of vodka into the pool while laughing. Behind her, someone held a blowtorch, lighting tiki torches dangerously close to the filtration system, and then, boom, a pipe burst. Water flooded. Over the deck, Karen screamed, slipped, and landed face first in the shallow end. There it was, the original cause of the maintenance shutdown. She had broken the pool herself. Lead about the damage, and billed the HOA for emergency repairs. That cover-up was what triggered her need for total control. Monica stared at the screen. "Guess even slime leaves receipts," she muttered. She forwarded the file to the county and dropped it into the neighborhood archive just below Thomas's. Report. History, sealed and preserved. The reign of Karen Delaney, Slime Queen of Willow Ridge. What was your favorite part of the slime saga? Drop a "Long live the HOA rebels" in the comments. Like the video if you've ever dreamed of dethroning a neighborhood tyrant, and subscribe for more crazy real-life HOA dramas.